Welcome to committee. Eric, you may start when you're ready.
Thank you, ma'am. Chairwoman O'Brien, Vice Chair Gavrone, Ranking Member Kimura, and members of the local government committee. My name is Eric Wohlwend. I've provided housing in Ohio for over 20 years. I appreciate your time and want to thank you for considering House Bill 93. In just one of the single-family homes that I rent out, I received a water bill for $1,072.20. I've attached this for all of you to see. I never agreed to pay this bill. I did not use any of this water. A tenant signed up for the water and agreed to pay the bill. I've attached a bill that also says no owner signed to prove that I had never agreed to pay this. The tenant chose not to pay. For about a year, I was never notified that this water bill went unpaid. When I found out, I immediately had my management company ask the water company to turn the water off. The water company refused to turn it off while the tenant was living there and let the charges keep escalating. Immediately after the tenants moved out, the water company turned off the water, preventing my company from cleaning the house. We could not get water for a new tenant unless we paid the old tenant's past due water bill. The water company would not turn the water off from that past tenant while they lived there, but they did turn on water in the new house the tenant moved into, even though they hadn't paid their last bill. Since this tenant already owed us over $5,000, which is significantly more than my $800 security deposit, we decided not to pay another $1,000 for the water. The house then sat vacant for 8 months because we couldn't have the water turned back on. This water charge was then transferred to my tax bill. When I went in to pay my taxes, the treasurer said they wouldn't accept payment. Any money that came in first went to the water bill. I couldn't just pay the taxes because of the order it was attached. I talked to my lawyer and he said we shouldn't pay anything at that time. Now, this has gone on and the water company did finally give us about a $900 credit. With all of the hundreds of properties that I have and the 20 years that I've been in business, this is the only tax bill that I did not pay on time. Once the $900 was credited back, there are still about $300 in late fees for my taxes, which we are currently working on. I don't know a single housing provider who would willingly sign for a tenant's credit card bill. I don't know one that would sign for their car payment. And I also don't know one that would sign for their water bill. We provide housing, not water, for our tenants. That's the water company's job. I would use any other water service that I could, but the cities have a monopoly. Many cities refuse to turn the water off. In fact, Alliance, Ohio, the mayor unilaterally decided we're just not going to turn a tenant's water bill off for any reason in the month of December. That was more than 20 years ago, and they still are not turning water off in December. Then, as soon as the tenants move out, they turn the water bill off when the housing providers need to get it cleaned and move in new tenants. These are the same tenants that leave owing us thousands of dollars. The electric company, the gas company, even 𝐏𝐫𝐸 Ohio, which is a private water company, can track the tenants. They turn the water off so they don't have these egregious fine or late bills. They have figured out how to collect from the tenants. This gives the water company and the tenants a little bit more responsibility rather than just attaching liens to our properties and refusing to stop service on past due accounts. By passing House Bill 93, I believe it will add some accountability to both the water companies and the tenants. Just this one occurrence cost my company over $7,000 in rent. It would have cost another $1,000 in tenants' water bills if we would have not hired a lawyer, who, by the way, I paid more than that $1,000, to try and keep them accountable. No one can provide services for less than their cost of input. And I'm sure there are many people worried about the cost of housing in Ohio today. This is dramatically increasing the rents that we have to charge so all of our good tenants can pay for the handful that choose not to pay their water bill. I urge you to pass House Bill 93 to keep some tenants responsible for their own charges So we don't have to split those charges over all of the good and responsible tenants. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. There are questions from the committee, Senator Ford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, no offense, housing provider means landlord. I mean, let's be honest, the term housing provider is making it such like you're providing housing to poor people that don't already have it. You're a landlord, and you said you own dozens and dozens of properties for 20 some years. So, my first question is, why would you let a house sit vacant for 8 months because somebody owes you $5,000 instead of paying $100,000 water bill when you can make more than that renting the place out? And my second question is, I was a renter for 15 years before I bought a house, and I never paid a water bill because my landlord paid the water bill and charged me a fee for it, a monthly fee for the water bill. So you can certainly do that. It's not against the law or against any rules to have you, as the landlord, pay the water bill so you know how much you get every month and you charge your renter that fee. Is that the case?
To the chair and to the senator. Yes, sir, thank you for your very good questions. With your second question first, many of our apartments, the water bills are not split and it's just not reasonable. So that is factored in with the rent. We also rent out many single-family homes. And our goal is to get people there that want to live a lot longer, provide them a house with a yard for their kids to play in. Basically a little bit different living than the apartments that I rented when I was in college. When we are doing that, you just have to run things differently. They can fill up pools in their backyard and run up huge water bills, even though it is against our lease. We cannot possibly charge. No one would move in if we had a $3,000 or a $4,000 security deposit. It's not possible to figure out. We do very thorough screening. And if the gas company, if you don't pay them, then they won't turn your gas back on. If the water company could just help us to keep people responsible, we would love to report them and say, hey, this person isn't paying rent. I've worked specifically with Alliance, Ohio. We own single-family homes in multiple municipalities, and in Massillon, Ohio, we don't have any problem. We work incredibly well with 𝐒𝐫𝐸, Ohio, helping them get in and turn the water off if people aren't paying, making sure that we give them the names and social security numbers, phone numbers, forwarding addresses for anybody that moved. So us working together, this bill doesn't necessarily place all of the burden. If I'm not mistaken, there's still a clause in there with the housing provider, and yes, we are called, there's no difference between a landlord. Other than the fact that I've never been the lord of anything, I find it ironic that people would still say that. And what do we actually do? More specifically, we provide housing to people. We do not do it free. Just like McDonald's does not provide food for free. They charge for the burgers that they sell. I have to charge for the houses. So yes, if you'd like me to refer to myself as a landlord, I am that according to the old lexicon, and yet housing providers more accurately what we do. When we do that, it is simply a business. I went to school to be a doctor. I could be working emergency medicine in the emergency room right now. And I chose to focus what I can do to help the world by teaching. I have a large training company, and I help people to dig themselves out of poverty and make a better life for themselves. I also provide them a place to live. It is one of the most important things in the world to have a good, safe home you can raise your family. I teach them how to keep the family together and want to provide a house for them to do it, not just a small apartment. So hopefully I answered your question with that.
So, Madam Chair, no, actually, you didn't answer the question why don't you can charge, you can pay the water bills, have them in your name, and charge your tenants for that water. Just like, I mean, that's what happened to me when I rented an apartment. That happens to my aide right now who's renting an apartment. The water bill, the landlord tells them you owe this much for water bill, and you pay that when you thing. If they don't pay the water bill after a month, then you can take things, but there's nothing preventing you from having that. So why would you try that option instead of letting them sign up for their own water bill?
Very simple. To the chair, to the senator, it's simply a matter of bookkeeping. We have more than 100 single-family homes, And if we have to come in, we have first and second notices coming at all different times. We might get a stack of 50 or 100. Not only do we have that, we have the apartment buildings and all the other properties that my management company manages. The simple amount of time it costs me to pay a bookkeeper must be paid by somebody. So if my cost of input goes up, if I'm making a shoe, it doesn't matter if I'm buying rubber or buying more warehouse space, that's still input cost. If I pay a bookkeeper for an extra 20 or 30 hours a week, those costs must be passed on to all of the other tenants. All of the extra paperwork leaves. If you get your water bill, you're probably not gonna forget that, sir. I know when I get my electric bill, I've got a spreadsheet set up. I know what should we do. I don't forget to pay my house payment on the 1st or my electric bill on the 12th. I can't necessarily track without hiring another full-time bookkeeper hundreds of electric bills, hundreds of water bills.
One final question, Madam Chair. Well, I mean, the city of Columbus has 1.3 million people, that is, to water for. So if it's tough for you to do 100, how do you expect the city of Columbus has 1.3 million people that have water bills? How are they supposed to track all that down? Because now you're putting on them to track down 1.3 million people.
The same logic, sir, could be used for me. If it is hard for someone to remember to pay their rent on the 1st, how could I possibly be responsible for making sure 500 independent families pay their rent on the 1st when it is due? It is my job, that's what our company is there for, to provide housing and collect rent so we can pay our owners, our investors. This is the retirement fund of many of these investors. Everybody buying houses doesn't go to Chase Bank and get a loan. They borrow money from your IRA so you can get a better return for your retirement. So when they don't collect money, it is very hard for them to pay. It's a ripple effect, and it is my job as a manager to be in the middle, to make sure that we collect the rent from the tenants, which they aren't always happy to pay, and the owners are always happy to receive. And it is also my responsibility to spend the owner's money to fix stuff in a timely fashion, which the owners aren't always happy with, but the tenants always like. That's what we get paid for to run our job, and that's exactly what the city of Columbus and the city of Alliance and Canton water departments get paid for, to provide water, and part of that is to collect the bill and track their tenants. And if they would just work with us and not turn on, I would never move somebody in. We have had over 4,000 tenants since we started this business in 2003. And I would never move somebody in that owed us thousands of dollars from before. We keep all of that. It's very easy to track in the computer system. And multiple people have come in and said, oh, I'm sorry, let me write a check, and I please move back into one of your homes. And they pay in full. The water company could very easily do that, and more importantly, probably the most important, they could immediately turn off the water after not receiving payment within a month, 45, 60 days at the max, rather than letting them go for more than a year. And when I call up and say, please turn this off, I don't want to be held responsible, they say, I ask, why are you charging the landowners? They said, oh, because tenants, just as exactly as you said, tenants are too hard to track and we know they'll pay. That was my answer for the Alliance Water Department.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Wohlwend, for your testimony.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Senators.